This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Fan. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Guardsy out today. That means the very capable Brett Blakemore is in. He is in charge of today's Top 5. What do we got?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to please Kevin Fallness because there's no Minnesota Wild things to talk about.
Nothing that you can even muster up, huh?
There's just not.
By the way,
as dead as possible.
Has Russo or anyone else yet established whether the only guy we care about this offseason, Kirill Kaprizov, is back from Russia? Do we know if he's back in the continental United States yet?
I do not. I saw a video of him doing like a sled push, but I'm not sure if that was in Russia or here.
Could be here, could be anywhere.
The A topic, though, is that the seasonal boost is back. Finally, one more sleep until Vikings football returns to these airwaves. Vikings-Texans, J.J. McCarthy, as we know, will play to some capacity. What capacity, we don't know. But you will see QB1 take the field again for the Vikings tomorrow. 3 o'clock start, 1 o'clock pregame.
That's it. And that's the only reason there'll be much buzz for this game. Let's be honest. Well, there's always a certain buzz because people love pro football so much that just getting in the habit of watching the players in uniform again on a game day will attract people. You know, even though they know there's nothing at stake, it's that scratching that itch that people appreciate. There's a comfort food aspect to it. And beyond that, this year, it's our first look at J.J. McCarthy since the preseason game a year ago in which he got hurt. So the intrepid beat reporter Ben Gessling says he does expect other players to play, other offensive starters to play, not Jeff Jefferson, but several others, and maybe less so on the defensive side of the equation, which might make some sense. But at least we're here, and I think it is very possible that this is all we'll see of McCarthy this game. I think there's no chance we're going to see him in game 3. The question is game 2, and the assumption is not so much because we have those joint practices leading up to that preseason game, I think, against New England, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. And I will go here. I'm done with the 3 games. It was 4 at one point. Now it's 3.
Once upon a time it was 6. It's crazy to think about that.
Yeah. And you even saw the injuries. I mean, Anthony Richardson for the Colts got hurt with 1 hit. There goes his pinky, and he's done.
It's crazy.
So I think 2 is probably your best. You get 1 quarter with the starters in the first game, all backups in the second. Let's get moving with the regular season.
Yeah, we'll eventually eventually we will get to 20 regular season football games. There's no question in my mind.
Can't wait.
Might take a while, but we'll get there.
Yeah, well, 2 bye weeks, I don't care.
Yeah, that's it. You're exactly right.
There is a conundrum going on in downtown Minneapolis. Noon at 3 would call it a programming predicament. It could be an attendance predicament because the Lynx are at home taking on the Washington Mystics. The Lynx are 25-5. They've lost 1 regular season game at home all year. They're a really good team. Meanwhile, across the street, the Twins take on the Royals. Joe Ryan's on the mound, which is cool, but they're out of it. The season's dead. It's all over. So obviously, I think you'd probably go Lynx if you, Dan Barreiro, had tickets to both games. I would as well. I would definitely go Lynx to see Carrington for the first time. Now, there's an element we did not address earlier that is got to be put in this equation. The Kansas City Royals still are in contention more than we are, I think, for a wild card. Their fans travel. I assume they travel okay. So might that also artificially boost up the attendance? I don't think there's going to be a lot of walk-up from Washington Mystics fans coming to Target Center for that game. I don't think the Mystics are. I don't think they're as bad as the Wizards, but I don't think they're all that good. So the X factor will be throughout this entire 2 months. Really, are the Yankees in town? Although I don't think they're back here. Any teams that are still in the mix that have fans that like to show up into somebody else's ballpark. That's the X factor, and it might, to a certain extent, be the X factor tonight. In the case of Kansas City Royals fans, I'm on the Twins website, and I was I just see the headlines, and the top headline on the Twins website is post-deadline Twins showing off new brand of ball.
Oh, God.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. But they finally won a series, I guess.
Oh, boy.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're desperate.
Care.
They don't know, what else are they going to do? They got to fill it with something. But as I said earlier, the only two things that matter the rest of the season for me are, one, what local attendance is going to be like, and how clever will people be trying to bring in negative poll ad signs, and secondly, whether we can get the name of a new owner before the end of the regular season. That's all people care about at this point. I just don't think they care about much else.
The good news is we're in the season now where we can just, when in doubt, just break the NFL glass for the end of top 5 at 5. We got a lot of football to discuss. There's a lot from yesterday. I don't know how much you were into. As I mentioned, Anthony Richardson got injured almost immediately for the Colts, which means that your guy, Daniel Jones, had to play a majority of the game. He was not very good. He was 10 for 21 on a bad Colts team. Bengals-Eagles was fun, Joe Burrow. But today, we get our first look. I don't even know. I don't think they're playing any starters off the top of my head. We get our first look at the defending NFC North champion Lions in Atlanta to take on the Falcons. That's at 6.
Yeah, that's okay. That's not bad. But again, you're at the mercy of who's playing, who isn't, and how long. So it's the kind of thing. I think for a lot of people, I'll have it on as background.
Yeah.
I may look up every once in a while, but I'll do other things. I just like the idea of having it on in the background. By the way, Thinking Ain't Gal reminds me the Yankees are here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, September 15, 16, 17. So that might artificially boost attendance a little bit, although by then the Yankees could be mathematically eliminated as well.
I wonder, you mentioned earlier
that's a joke, Thinking Ain't Gal.
You mentioned that the ratings for the Vikings game is going to be enormous on TV.
It'll be good. I don't know if enormous is the right term.
It'll be good.
Yes.
I wonder where the divide is at, because I'm a guy where once the starters are out, I pretty much lose interest.
I'm with you.
But I know there are some sickos out there that want to see how that 6th wide receiver is doing on his dig route. You know what I mean? I don't know what the percentage is of that. I would love to find that out.
Are those fantasy football people, too? They want to know about depth, possibly for other people getting hurt who I might be able to tap on the free agent market via, fantasy football.
Here's what I don't understand either. Just one last bit on football. You've got 3 games today. You've got the Lions, Falcons, Browns at Panthers, Commanders at Patriots. Mm-hmm. And only one of them is on TV on the NFL Network. And it was the last one that I would have thought. The Browns, Panthers, that's the game they picked.
That's the game?
Lions, Falcons, I would have much rather watched that.
Oh, me too, yeah.
And then Commanders, Patriots, you could see a little Drake May, could see a little Jay Daniels, maybe.
I think NFL Network ends up putting them on tape on all eventually, but you're talking about live.
Well, I have no interest.
So there's no... The one game is NFL Network that is on?
Yep.
You mentioned Cleveland. And there's no network game tonight? I thought there was, each weekend there was a network game too, even for preseason.
There is, but not today for whatever reasons. Tomorrow it'll be your Green Bay Packers. All right. But, and I believe, it's Packers, Giants, Bills is the day game tomorrow. So there is. But for whatever reason today, they've got one game live, and it's Browns, Panthers, even though they had 2 way better games they could have picked. That's it. That's 5.
Is that 5? Are you sure? Oh, good job.
Give or take.
Give or take 2 or 3?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. We do have an update from Dan Minnesota on the famous George Thole quote, the legendary high school football coach who passed away earlier this week. A star coach, a big-time career as a head coach, especially at Stillwater. There was a quote I associated with him forever, and I think Dan Minnesota, as he is wont to do, got to the bottom of exactly what that quote was, what the context was as well. We'll get into that as a follow-up to earlier in the show, and then prepare for Lavelle E. Neal III at the bottom of the hour.
To play.
Football training camp is back at Treasure Island Resort and Casino. Join Paul Charching and the Fantasy Football Weekly crew Friday, August 15th in the Full Deck Ballroom from 6 to 9 p.m. Enjoy elite fantasy football knowledge and your shot at a $1,000 grand prize. Full details now, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Well, you're getting ripped, Brett Blakemore, for forgetting, and I'm not sure if it occurred to me, or maybe I'm just not that fascinated with the story, or as fascinated as apparently the rest of America is going to be. Shedeur Sanders is expected to start for Cleveland tonight. I am not. That story does not that much for me, but it's a name, and we're all about names, whether it's sports or politics. So that may well be why the Browns a national game. I don't know at what point they have to commit, and at what point everybody knew that he was going to start in the game. I'm not sure. I'm certainly not sure you deserve the level of abuse you're receiving via the text line over. Okay. Oh yeah, Shedeur Sanders. Sorry, sue us. I wouldn't exactly call that a massive deal. A couple people reminding us that they will stay with the Vikings game if we see a little bit of our guy Brosmer.
Oh,
and there's some curiosity there that I understand because of his success this past season with the Golden Gophers as well. So that's okay. Yeah, you find everybody can find something, that might appeal to them, that might keep their noses in the preseason game. And they also are mentioning that we already did see the Lions at the Hall of Fame game, and they got killed. And not only did they get killed, extent,
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I don't remember what side it was. Basically, is this the beginning of the fall for the Detroit Lions? And we all had kind of fun with that because it might be the beginning of the fall for the Lions. They've lost both their coordinators, but I'm not sure any of it has anything to do with the fact that they got thumped, they got routed in the Hall of Fame game.
I actually heard that Guardsy is not going to tune into the Vikings game until Max Brosmer comes in. That wouldn't
be surprising.
Then he'll start paying attention.
He's lost himself in his eyes a year ago. There's no question about that. Okay, we odied all-time high school coaching great George Thole, who died on Wednesday, I believe. And I said that when I think of the name, there's one quote having to do with everybody gets a trophy. But I couldn't remember the exact quote. I couldn't find it via some of the obituaries that had been written. I asked Dan Minnesota to do some research, and he's done it. So here, this is when I guess you could say the George Thole mythology regarding this quote started. The discussion had to do with the evolving state high school football tournament, okay? And apparently Thole, who took 18 Stillwater teams to the state tournament, won 4, stands by his 1997 assessment of a 6-game tournament. That's all you need. That now, of course, basically the more recent format after that was almost everybody kind of technically had a chance to proceed. So the Thole quote was, they should send every team a trophy. And at the end of the year, if the coach doesn't think his team deserves it, he can send it back. That was his way of mocking what he thought was the dilution of the entire event, thereby diluting the quality of the event. They should send every team a trophy, and at the end of the year, if the coach doesn't think his team deserves it, he can send it back. So it wasn't, in effect, he's talking about everybody gets a trophy, but this was the accurate. And we like to be accurate, whether it's game times or quotes, as often as we possibly can. So that's your update regarding, in fact, can you find the on page, I think it's the first page of my sounders. Can you find the follow-up sounder? And while you're looking for that, I'm going to locate a couple of other items as well.
I'm not sure I've ever used this sounder.
I like it.
Yeah?
You haven't found it yet. I thought you had it, but you just hadn't hit it.
I don't even know.
It's either A or B. It's either page 1 or 2.
I'm looking on the wrong spot. The follow-up sounder.
I think it's a good sounder. I really do.
Well, I can't wait. Oh, here it is.
Does that not sound urgent?
That does.
That just sounds like got some gravitas to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I kind of did the order wrong because I've already offered you the follow-up, the George Thole follow-up regarding the quote, but better to have it than, better to have it late than to not have it at all. Have you guys chosen the weekly Vikings player who's going to come on the show this season? We're getting there. I'll say my sources indicate that the search has been narrowed to 2 players. And the question regarding one of them is whether he will remain, because the season goes on a while now, committed to the bit week after week.
Oh my gosh.
If they're convinced that he will be, and he is convinced that he will be, it'll be that player. If not, it will be a different player who, by the way, would be fine and is a good quote and could give us good material. I try not to make a big deal when I talk to the Vikings about this. Like, everybody who comes on with us, on a regular basis, a given year, weekly, ends up being either cut the next year or, in the case of Mike Zimmer, fired. So I don't want anybody who's too superstitious to go off. It's a kiss of death. I'm not going to go on that program. But in all honesty and in fairness, Zimmer was not fired till much later. We had him for a few years, and then we had to, I think Zim got kind of tired of us, and maybe we were tired of him too. Maybe it was better for both sides. So he was still here for a couple years when we were not doing regular weekly bits with him. So we're getting close. We have also talked, sometimes you can just do the old, all right, we're going to use different people every week. But I think we're close to a final verdict, and I think it'll be determined sometime likely in the next couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I had one other text. Don't forget, Lavelle is coming up here at the bottom of the hour. If you have questions for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. As always, 64686. I didn't understand what this. Can you decipher this text? Ability to win one-score games is more of an indicator of a team being not that good, i.e., when you beat a bad Titans-Jags team by only 1 score, that's not something to really brag about. The 1 score bit, historically, has tended to be used against the teams who are good at it, as odd as that sounds, because the assumption is that there's a little bit of luck related to that, and as a result, the next year, the assumption is, well, if you were like 9-1 in 1 run or 1 score games, you're going to maybe not be reversed to 1-9, but you're more likely to be 500 or a little better, or a little below 500, and you can't count on it. In this case, he's bringing up a different issue where there's some teams you beat by 1 score that are actually an indictment of you because you should be much better than that team, I guess. But I don't know. Look, is there an art to winning 1 score games? I think there is. That's why sometimes I hesitate to dismiss it. Like, well, if you've had a good year, 1 year doing that there's no chance you can repeat it, because we talk out of both sides of our mouths on these issues, because we tend to say, well, what separates okay teams from good ones is the ability to win close games, right? But if we're immediately going to hold it against them because the odds would indicate that you're winning more than your fair share, I end up getting rather dizzy thinking about all those possibilities. But I do think there's an art to winning close games. I really do. And even if there can be, in some cases, an element of luck, I don't like reducing all of that to luck being the key ingredient, and that you're going to go back and lose 4 or 5 of those very same games under similar circumstances the next year. Wow, I think that NBA news could have waited. Who cares about basketball in December right now? No one. That's from 763 guy, bitter that in the middle of our conversation with Gessling, I mentioned the breaking news that there was a significant local angle. It wasn't just the December game. It was Christmas Day or Christmas night game. And Wolves Nuggets are one of the 5 games that day. And at this point in 2025, the Wolves are more than just a cute little story in this town. They've become very popular. All our surveys indicate when we talk about the Wolves, people are interested. So, and it was like 30 seconds. Plus, I don't think Gessling minds, do you? Gessling's very eclectic, and he's interested to a certain extent in all sports. So I'm sorry you were offended by it. Obviously, it wasn't like, dramatic news or anything, but it caught my eye, and I said, well, why not? Let's get to it right now.
Well, even on the day of, that game is going to be overshadowed because the Vikings play Christmas Day against the Lions.
That's what he brought up. Yeah, and in fact, there might even be some overlap between game times. That may yet to be determined. I don't know. On the other hand, if you don't like the relatives you're around Christmas night or Christmas Day, now you have a second local angle sports excuse where I got to watch the Vikings and I got to watch the Timberwolves, right? Then you don't have to have that inane, uncomfortable conversation with some drunken uncle that you really don't like all that much. You just don't even look at him. You just say, I got to see what Anthony Edwards does against Joker. That might work. That's a good strategy. We'll come back. Christmas is right around the corner, too. Not only is the State Fair around the corner, Christmas is around the corner. Decorations, yes, they're already up at Costco.
If you want to chime in what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw Bryant KFAN text line. Just let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That is 64686. Standard text message and data rate supply.
Questions for our 5:30 guest. Don't hesitate to hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. I guess you could do the talkback line, too. We haven't used that lately. We should. We used it. What week? What controversy? It might have been Twins. Trade night. When the roster got gutted. We had some great talkbacks on that occasion. So that's open if you'd like to. You got up to 30 seconds to make your point. And it could be a question for Lavelle. Lavelle E. Neal III, or the text line, as I said, 64686. Lavelle joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Are you local? Are you back in Vegas? Are you at the cabin? Where are you today?
I'm in Coon Rapids right now.
Coon Rapids, you say? What's the occasion?
It was a celebrity golfer for the Tee It Up for Their Troops golf tournament, which supports, our military heroes. It's a fantastic event. I participated in it about 12, 13, 14 years ago when it was at Minn Dakota. In fact, our group was right next to Vince Flynn's group, so it was that far back. So, and they asked me to take part in it this year, and I immediately agreed to. So it's been a great event. We're actually on our last hole right now, so it's been a great day. Warm, breezy, humid, but it's been a great day.
Did you hit them straight?
You know what? The great thing about the way I play golf is it allows me to explore every foot of this golf course. And so
yes,
it's safe. Just assume that, yes, I've been around the course. I know it very well now.
You're like one of the great, the explorers of the old days, right? Columbus, Amerigo, Vespucci, so many other ones. You're one of those, right?
I am, especially being able to scour golf courses across the Twin Cities this summer.
That's the beauty of it, for sure. All right, where would you like to begin? Do you want to talk football? Do you want to talk ownership, Twins? Well, you know what? Maybe you can answer this question. I asked earlier how creative might frustrated Twins fans be certainly this weekend, but anytime the Twins are at home the rest of the season, attempting to smuggle in Pollad protest signs. What do you think?
It's happened before, right?
Yeah,
they've tried to do it before, and they've been confiscated. You can't. The way fans are behaving now, we got dildos flying on basketball courts in the WNBA. Anything is possible with today's society, which is kind of sad to say. The Twins told me earlier this week that they're already projecting low to mid 20s in each of the three games against the Royals this weekend. I don't know how many of that
Royals
are
fans?
traveling Kansas City fans,
right.
But still, they thought it would be okay. I think it's right around their average attendance for the season. So we'll see what happens in September when school really starts. I'm looking at that September series when Oakland comes to town as one where the fan behind the third baseline could have a conversation with the fan sitting behind the first baseline.
Yeah, we're not likely to see very many athletics fans, perhaps, boosting the attendance figures.
But they really don't exist anymore now that they play in Sacramento.
Yeah,
so
it's unbelievable. And think about that for a minute. I mean, that was, as you know, once upon a time, one of the not only best but most storied baseball franchises. Right, going back to the old days of John Blue Moon Odom, Dave Stewart, Gene Tennis. The list just goes on and on. I mean, those teams were legendary. And now, like you said,
Charlie Finley, Billy Martin.
Nobody even notices that they still even exist at this point.
I know. How many times have the A's moved now? It's been the Philadelphia A's, the Kansas City A's, the Oakland A's, and now it's going to be Las Vegas A's.
Yeah.
It's the A&F, it may stand for all around the country because that's where this franchise has traveled. It seems like have they played in every time zone in East,
no clue.
Central? No, they haven't. They've missed Mountain, I believe. So, but yeah, you think about the great players they've had, and the crazy fan base that they developed, and those great teams in the '70s, and then Tony La Russa coming over and Canseco and McGuire.
Yeah,
you know, Billy Martin coming in and transforming a rotation in like a year. Mike Norris, going 22-7. Steve McCaddy, Matt Keel, who I believe lost like 16 games one year. He also ended up being a halfway decent pitcher. So. And now, when I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago, they're showing me the site where they're putting the stadium at. And I was like, I can't believe there's going to be a baseball stadium on the Strip. And they're excited. They think this is going to be great for business. And I'm like, well, they got to develop a fan base. How many people would come out and watch this team play? And you can't expect, like, if the Cincinnati Reds are in town, you're going to see 20,000 people from Cincinnati all of a sudden in Vegas. So I'm curious to see how this is going to work out.
Yeah, remember, I mean, for a while, it was a good Oakland was a good rivalry. Because 92, the year after the Twins won their second World Series, they were neck and neck. The Twins, in fact, had the best record in baseball at one point that year, and then Oakland caught them. Remember? That was a very memorable season.
What was the game? Was it Eric Fox?
Yes, the Eric Fox 3-run home run.
Yeah, hit a big home run. Yeah,
that's right.
I never heard from him again.
That was the end of that Twins season. Yeah, it was I was there for that game that night. It was a very nice rivalry at that time between those two teams. Are you any close? I mean, do you feel, as each day goes by, more confident or less confident that your prediction that we will know the name of the new Twins owner by the end of the regular season is going to come true?
I'm going to stand behind my prediction. I know I've got less than 2 months now, but I'm going to stand behind it. Part of me wonders if they already know this, and it's kind of dictated their attempts to cut payroll or reduce their financial obligations going out the door or not. I'm not sure of that. I don't have concrete evidence. But I know the last homestand, all of a sudden Jim Polat was walking around the stadium a little bit more, so I was trying to figure out what that was all about. But I really don't have much of an update for you other than, when I left for Vegas, the last thing I heard that, there was supposed to be like a meeting about it a couple weeks ago, which I've heard nothing from how that turned out. So,
okay.
We have to stay tuned, man. And it's been really quiet. Now, I have to point out too, out of the blue, all of a sudden, the Baltimore Orioles were sold. Out of the blue, all of a sudden, the Lakers and the Celtics were sold. It just kind of happens. Now, the Rays thing, that was bubbling to an end here because the owner was butting heads with city leaders, and he was actually getting calls from other owners saying it may be time for you to sell. So that one was kind of coming down the pipe. So, but in most cases, we don't know if it's really ready to happen. We just need some loose lips right now. And the Polat family has been good about not having loose lips through the years, and they make people sign NDA agreements and things like that. So it's tough. I'll still make calls and try to be nosy whenever I can. But I've got nothing juicy right now.
What are the chances that whoever the group is, the consortium, what are the chances that there might be a former Twin component where it wouldn't be mainly their money, but that like Torrey Hunter might be in on something? Is there, because there were rumors about that early, about that possibility. Is there any steam to that at all, or is that a completely separate sort of a conversation?
I believe that whenever this deal gets done, that there will be a former player brought in as like a limited partner. I think the nuts and bolts of the transaction have to be put in place,
right? And
then you'll have room to add some limited partners. I think that's when you'll see a former Twin. I'll say this: I believe when Justin Nishbia was showing interest in buying the team. He had reached out to former Twins players about being part of his group. So I wouldn't be surprised if whoever ends up with the team does the same thing.
Interesting. Let's talk. We will definitely get to some pro football conversation. I do want to get your reaction to a few comments from the Lynx are also in action downtown Minneapolis tonight, and it's the first game in town since the acquisition of Dejani Carrington, who already looks like she is definitely going to help this team, especially defensively. But apparently Cheryl Reeve grabbed the reporters the other day. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. Yesterday it was. Very unhappy about the disruptions, about the sex toys that have been thrown out from the stands. I think now we're up to 4, I believe, and there's some sort of connection to some Bitcoin operation that apparently that stock's through the roof. Here's what here's what Cheryl Reeve had to say. This has been going on for centuries, the sexualization of women. This is the latest version of that, and it's not funny. It should not be the butt of jokes on any radio show or in print or in any comment. The people that are doing this should be held accountable. We're not the butt of the joke. They're the problem, and we need to take action. To which you say what?
I say she has every right to say that. If I was a WNBA player and see those things happen to me, I'd be very upset and feel like I'm being disrespected. I feel like I'm being looked down upon. And now that the rumor is, well, I guess there's a report out that this was related to cryptocurrency that's in the market to try to build interest in it, and it's gone through the roof.
Yes,
and I think it's pretty crappy of ESPN to interview someone with the group and allow him to hide his face and not give a name or an age, but still run his quotes. I thought there was something sleazy about that. I was not a fan of that type of journalism. And this sets a dangerous precedent now, because it's one thing to pull off a stunt for publicity's sakes, but when it comes at the expense of someone or a group of people or a gender, it's crossing the line. And anyone who's caught doing this, should be tossed from the stadium, not just for like a year. They should be tossed for good. They should not be allowed to even visit that arena for a jobs fair in the future,
Yes.
So I was outraged over it. I wrote about it for Sunday.
Good.
So I think Cheryl Reeve has every right to be upset and disappointed and demand action. I actually tried to contact the Lynx today to ask them if they're beefing up security, if they have any countermeasures to prevent some of these things. Because apparently there's a couple of other games in which someone threw sex toys that did not reach the playing field. But in one case, it hit a gentleman and his 9-year-old niece.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, how do you explain that one to the little girl? So it's just throwing things on the court, gluing yourselves to the court. Trying to be part of the game. You're a fan. Fan better. Because when this stuff, we're headed to a society in which there's going to be a 50-foot pane of glass separating fans from courts so they can't throw stuff and can get close to athletes. And then you're going to be asking, why is this happening? And it's things like this.
I agree with everything you say about Reeves' reaction. I think she has every right to say it, because the distinction here is, we've had stuff thrown on it's not the first time that's happened where idiots have tried to throw things on the court. But it's the element of what this seems to be representing, and based on some of the quotes that from one of these stories, might have been The Athletic, that Guardsy quoted from yesterday when we were at training camp, these are folks who know exactly what they're doing, and they are about demeaning individuals whose only crime here is they're just pursuing excellence in the sport they like to play. It's
right.
Childish is not even the right term. It's so far beyond this. We should be so far beyond this sort of thing. And look, somebody has said Reeve has become unlikable. She just lives in her own bubble. And I'm going,
who
look,
said that?
I text her. I say, look, I have been critical of Reeve on some things. We had Christine Brennan on earlier in this week. I think that going back to some of the Clark stuff, she'd made definitely some blunders. She's not above criticism. But this is a separate classification. It's not. We have to get better than that texter, which is, well, if Reeves says it, I'm obligated to not like it. How about evaluating individually the things that she says and having the ability as an adult to distinguish between things that you go, well, I'm not sure I understand what her grievance is there, as opposed to this, where she has every right to say, we're just trying to carry on our profession. And we got these idiots who've decided, doing the old, as they do it, elbowing the guy next to him like, hey, see what I threw on the court there? Fully, definitely fully hoping and intending to demean the entire operation. It's pathetic.
And I tell you this, too, if you look at the whole picture, the totality of who Cheryl Reeve is, her unvarnished opinions are a gift to media and for her fans, because you know what she's thinking at all times.
Yeah, well, that's also true. That's a very good point. That's why she can be a very good interview as well. There's no question about that. So that's the Sunday column. That's good. So Vikings, as you know, open tomorrow afternoon at 3. A pregame show will start right here on the Fan at 1 o'clock. And, I think you'll agree that there'll be a little bit more interest than the first preseason game often produces, because obviously you got McCarthy playing. We don't know how much he's going to play, but he's out there playing. And if that's the guy you handed the keys to, there's not enough information that people can get on the front end, right? Even if whatever he does yesterday or tomorrow does not really indicate what he ends up becoming as a quarterback, it's all we got to go on right now. And so there will be curiosity for tomorrow.
We have plenty of curiosity. The only problem is that how many series he plays, or I don't know if he's going to play a quarter. He may play just 2 series, he may just play 1. Mm-hmm. That's the only bit of information we're going to have to go on, and that's going to be talked about and replayed on the NFL Network and nudge him over the next week until he has another game. And I'm curious to see how many more games JJ plays in, because, the way training camp works now, teams get more out of these joint practices with other teams than they do with preseason games. The preseason games are for the guys who are 4th or 5th on the depth chart trying to, make the final roster. It's not for the A-list guys. I think the Indianapolis Colts blundered significantly yesterday. They benched the offensive line, but started Anthony Richardson behind second-string offensive line, and he gets crushed and breaks a pinky. I think if you're going to rest the offensive lineman, you may want to think about the quarterback safety as well.
It's all or nothing. Should be all or nothing. You're exactly right.
Yeah. Now the Bears had a joint practice with the Dolphins today, which I kept getting reports on my Bears fan text string, because they were blowing up. And there were skirmishes involved during that, and Mike McDonald, of course, is getting in the middle of it. But during all this, Tua threw 3 interceptions to the Bears defense, and I guess Caleb Williams had a couple of nice passes, and then the coach said, 19 starters are not playing in our preseason game on Sunday. So that's where we're at now with things. So I think we should be very fortunate that JJ's even playing at all during this preseason. But I'm sure that KOC wants to at least get him in the middle of a huddle, getting the plays called, getting the plays in, getting everybody set up. Just from a structure standpoint, and I'm sure there's value to that.
No question about that. A couple of texts here to wrap up our visit with you today. This one's kind of interesting without a name, though. 651 guy writes, a little birdie has told me that the current Celtics owner was recently in town for a meeting with the Pohlads. Can you confirm or deny?
No, I have no information on that one.
They got a lot of money, don't they? That's another one of those, they got like billions and billions. They got like mega billions, don't they? I think.
Well, they bought the team for $6 billion, and then one of the minority owners is trying to buy the Connecticut Sun for $325 million.
I saw that.
And move it to Boston.
There's some controversy about that too, I think. Yeah.
Well, now the league's telling them, well, no, you didn't put in a bid for relocation. There's other cities that are in line in front of you. So I don't know, WNBA. This guy's got $325 million.
I know, yes.
You may want to bend your rules for this one.
That's true.
And it's just a regional move. It's not like moving cross country. No. It's not because. And this will benefit the franchise playing in a larger arena with more eyeballs on it. That's good for the league. So hopefully that gets worked out. But no, 651. See, the 651 area code also includes Mendota Heights. So when you start telling me about little birdies, there's one person that comes to mind.
There's no question about that. Larry Mondello guy, as he is wont to do, is checking in. So Lavelle is sticking by his prediction on Twins ownership, unlike his prediction that the Twins wouldn't make any trades at the deadline, which he quickly deleted from Twitter.
I did that to agitate people. And you know me, you've seen me on Twitter. I kind of stir it up and don't take crap from people on Twitter. So just to infuriate them that the Twins may stand pat the trade deadline was tempting enough for me to throw that out there. Yeah, if you want to blame me for being wrong, go ahead and blame me. I could take the heat, but the intention was that I expected them to make some sort of trade all along. I was just trying to be an ass at that time.
You were consciously attempting to play the role of jackass. Okay.
Yeah.
At least you're honest about it. Well, in all honesty, too, ain't nobody successfully predicted what the Twins ended up doing because it's never been done in the history of baseball, for God's sake. There was no way to predict it. I know. Right?
Yeah. It's been pretty remarkable. I still can't get over the Louis Varland trade.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The value of that one, but I was at CHS Field last night to watch the Ross kid pitch. He's got great stuff. He's got a fastball that topped out at 96. He's got a changeup that was getting swing and misses. There's stuff to work there, man. He had one blow-up inning that was predicated by back-to-back errors. It was 2 errors in the same play, so he ended up giving five unearned runs. But he came back with a scoreless inning, so he ended up leaving on a positive note. But he's got talent, man. So I want to see more of this Rojas guy, especially when the Twins have not had a left-hander worth the damn since the days of Johan Santana and Francisco Liriano.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? All right, so we'll be reading you on Sunday. You've given us a good primer of what you gotten into. And then, are you going to Vikings tomorrow?
I am going to Vikings tomorrow.
Nice.
I'm actually full day tomorrow because I'm actually sitting with Finnegan on from 8 to 10. Actually, I'm going to get there and probably do the last hour, and then I'm going to head over to U.S. Bank Stadium for the game.
Better, yeah. Works out very well. Plenty of time to get there. 3 o'clock start and a 1 o'clock pregame. Have a wonderful weekend, and what now, a cold one after all the golf for today? Is that the plan?
Yeah, it just ended. Everybody's going in and chowing down, so I got to get in there and join them because I'm in no hurry to get in rush hour traffic to go back to Inver Grove Heights from Coon Rapids.
Oh, man. Good. And the good thing is there's very little construction throughout the metro area at this point.
I know, yeah. Once you get on, it's smooth sailing, definitely. That's the great thing about the Minneapolis-St. Paul. The roads are usually clear and not trashed with orange garbage cans.
Well, and all the construction projects are all nicely timed to separate to give you some opportunities. They don't. It's not like they would put they would close down consecutive exits or anything like that. They would never do something like that. They'd say that doesn't give people a chance to get out of it. They're always thinking about the consumer.
Yeah, and it would never extend a construction zone into November, which would be the heart of the Vikings season. They're more considerate than that.
There's no question about that. Thank you, my friend. We'll chat next week. Have fun, Lavelle.
All right, take care.
Appreciate it. Lavelle E. Neal III. We've got a follow-up to our George Thole discussion. A really good text came in from an individual who played under him. And this is one of those days, unfortunately, when we're going to need a second ode to a dead guy. We'll explain when we return.
Vikings football is back. Come find our Mall of America street team each day at Vikings training camp. Find out how you could win awesome prizes, including Mall of America mystery cards or tickets to an upcoming Vikings game. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
You heard that weather report via the iHeart correspondent. Not only is it 87 degrees, the CSI Corn Sweat Index also matches that 87, so it's very steamy. I think it's supposed to moderate a bit tomorrow. I think somebody did a story on this. It's an imperfect science evaluating what's a good weather day, but I think by most accounts, this has been a pretty disappointing summer when it comes to what might be classified as comfortable days. Maybe this will mean that for the fair, it'll be nice and cool, or maybe we're going to have a wonderful fall. Hasn't been all that good, I don't think, to this point. Larry Mondello guy writes, contrary to popular belief, I'm not always listening to the fan, and I've definitely missed some Friday bumper to bumpers, but is it me or have you been Friday summer hours free this year? The answer is yes. I don't even know why. So, I mean, the offer is still on the table, but we just kept going. And then at some point you go, what's the difference? It's for a couple of weeks up or down. So, yeah, it's the blue collar in us. There'd been no such thing. And we don't like giving the ammunition to the folks who claim that we mail it in. So, no Friday summer hours, at least not quite to this point.
And now it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
Second one of the day, and this is one of national and international scope. James A. Lavelle Jr., commander of Apollo 13, has died at the age of 97 years old. And his name among American astronauts has always had a little extra juice because his story was told and immortalized in a motion picture starring Tom Hanks called Apollo 13. He was the commander of the three-man Apollo 13 spacecraft that had to deal with a significant in-space crisis as it was heading to the moon in April of 1970. 97 years old, I will say, is a good run. He died on Thursday in Lake Forest, Illinois, family confirming his death in a statement to NASA. He flew some 715 hours in space. The New York Times tells us he was a former Navy test pilot, took part in 2 Gemini missions that orbited Earth, and was one of the 3 astronauts aboard Apollo 8, the first space flight to orbit the moon before he was chosen by NASA for 13. And the whole idea with that mission was that Lovell and Fred W. Hayes Jr. would land on the moon while the third member of the crew, John Swigert, orbited in the spaceship while awaiting their return. And they never got there. They never reached the lunar surface because of that catastrophic explosion that was immortalized it was made quite memorable by the Apollo 13 film and the movie starring, of course, Tom Hanks as well. I am old enough to remember how this was a different age, man. It was an age in which a single story like this could transfix everybody. And so for many of us, it was watching very, very, what's the word I would say? Negative coverage. Now, when I say negative, I don't mean they were trying to be negative in the coverage. It was the prospects were grim. There was great concern about whether these astronauts were going to be able to survive that experience and come back alive. It was about 56 hours into the flight, and they're, at this point, 200,000 miles from Earth. They hear a bang, and then there's system failure lights that go off, indicating that that's the origin of Houston. We've got a problem, although I think it was one of the other astronauts actually who said it first, even though they did a little fudging in the motion picture in that regard. Lovell telling the Chicago Tribune, "At first we thought it was a meteor strike. We knew that would cause a puncture that would allow all our air to escape, leaving us dead in a few minutes. When we realized it wasn't a meteor, we very quickly got busy figuring out what did happen and how we could get back home." And the wires inside one of the 2 oxygen tanks in the spacecraft's service module had been damaged before installation. They obviously did not know that. And the tanks that fed cold liquid oxygen to the fuel cells for electricity and drinking water for the command module, that's what those, though, when Mr. Swigert flipped a switch to carry out a routine task, there was a spark that ignited the wire's insulation. The tank ruptured. contents go into space. The other oxygen tank left damaged and leaking as well. And so the bit back in Houston was, well, what can we use that we know is on that aircraft in ways that they weren't even really necessarily created to be used that way? What can we do? What parts can we put together to basically keep them alive, give them enough oxygen, give them enough of an electrical supply? And ultimately the plan was, we're going to use the undamaged lunar module. That was the module that they were going to use to descend to the moon. That had its own oxygen and its own electrical supply. The lunar lander was intended, though, to only carry 2 astronauts for up to 2 days. 3 crewmen end up crowding into it. They turn off all the lights. They turn off all the heaters to preserve what energy that they can. And supposedly at that point, like, a U-turn was considered too risky. So the idea was, we're going to loop around the moon and hope for what is described in this story as a slingshot-like maneuver to head back towards Earth. Temperatures went down to as low as 38 degrees in the powered-down lunar module. To take care of their dehydration issues, the astronauts chewed on packages of hot dogs for moisture, improvised with common materials. That's what I was talking about on the ground, figuring out what common materials might they be able to use that's on the module. And at one point, they were using duct tape and a wool sock for a part of an air filtering contraption. Ultimately, Lovell maneuvers the rocket firing to get the spacecraft on a course back for Earth. They approach the Earth, then they move back into the command module, which that still had the heat shield that was needed ultimately for the descent to survive going through the Earth's atmosphere. They jettisoned the service module and the lunar module, and then used the last of the battery power and reserve oxygen to make it to a splashdown in the Pacific. It's a when it was clear they were going to survive, I mean, you want to talk about a nation unified in its joy? Everybody was invested. I don't know if we get invested. I didn't even know if 2025, if something similar happened, we would get invested the same way. I'm not sure. I wonder. I feel sometimes like we're so separated that I'm not sure we're capable of rising above that. Maybe more than I think. Maybe we would. But everybody was epoxied to the coverage, whether they cared about the space program or not, just because that was the human drama that was playing out in front of our eyes. And it turned out to be, as I said, in the end, a terrific finish to a story that had absolute tragedy written all over it. And so that, more than anything else, is what Jim Lovell will be remembered for, even though he was involved in a number of other missions as well. The movie Apollo 13, if you haven't seen it, again, there were some liberties taken. There were some things changed around a little bit, but it largely told the story pretty fairly and reasonably accurately, and it absolutely brings this particular story to light. So, the bad news is he has passed away. The good news in Lovell's case is a good run, living until he was 97 years old. We'll come back, wrap up the show, a postscript to an earlier Ode to a Dead Guy, more local in origin, and then we will let you know what's coming up later tonight right here in the Fan.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
And it's brought to you by American Pressure.
651 guy calling back to our ode to former Stillwater head football coach George Thole. I practiced for Stillwater and George Thole. I was a sophomore when we won the first state title in 75. The next year, everybody and their brother went out for football. We probably had 125 guys trying out for varsity. Since they don't actually cut anyone, they started 3-a-day practices to narrow things down. George was awesome. We would have walked through fire for him. The first practice after games, he and Jerry Foley would do a Tholanak skit like Karnak from Johnny Carson days. Somehow, when I heard somebody say, "Oh, to a dead guy" early in the afternoon, my first thought was, "Oh no!" And somehow I knew, even though I hadn't heard the news, that it was going to be George Thole. Regarding Apollo 13 and the news on Jim Lovell passing away at the age of 97, do you think the Apollo movie overstated the lack of interest the American public had in the mission until it became an emergency? That's from D-Dub. No, I don't think they overstated it by much. I think by then it was kind of becoming routine. Not that people had no interest, but it was like, okay, well, yeah, okay, it's another mission. They'll be fine. But I do think the moment it became a crisis, I do think at that point it was the only thing that a lot of us were watching, paying attention to, whether it was radio or TV, the very latest information about whether this remarkable, if unlikely, rescue mission was going to be effective. My maternal grandfather worked as engineer for Rockwell on the Apollo module. He was the first page. He was on, I should say, the first page of the troubleshooters Houston called. I only know this because my mother answered the phone and told the story at his funeral. And all he ever told me was that he worked on the program, and that was the reason why he had framed pictures of the launches next to his recliner. Also, about 20 years ago, writes 701 guy, my wife and I went to a restaurant in the Chicago suburbs knowing nothing about it except that it was fancy. I still recall my elk steak and soup floating with toast on it and a quail egg on the toast. At one point, a nice older man came around and asked how our food was. We wondered why the restaurant had Apollo 13 memorabilia. It was only later that we realized that the older man was Jim Lovell. Name of the restaurant, Lovell's of Lake Forest. All very good texts to wrap up a very busy show in which we want to thank our regularly scheduled guests. Ben Gessling joined at 4:30. Plenty of Vikings previewing of the first preseason game, which can be heard on the Fan tomorrow with the pregame show beginning at 1. And the first preseason game opening face-off just past 3 o'clock with PA Peter Bursich and a cast of thousands in the ensemble. As always, I'm assuming Ben Lieber on the sidelines too. Also want to thank Lavelle. Good conversation with him on the Twins, baseball ownership issues, the Cheryl Link's reaction to Cheryl Reeve, I should say, reaction as the head coach of the Lynx to the toys that have been thrown on the floor, the very specific ones that have been thrown on the floor at several WNBA games. And eventually we got around to a little bit of football conversation as well. Is this a Fan on Demand on the Air night? Is that
go to Lynx?
Oh, straight to Lynx. That's right. That's right. Because that's so yeah, downtown Minneapolis. Well, I was about to say it could be hopping tonight. Well, maybe not hopping because we're not assuming a sellout at Target Field. I don't think we're assuming a sellout at Target Center either. But the Lynx do have the best record in the WNBA. Twins, not so much. Kansas City fans, I don't know. Maybe they'll make their presences felt tonight. We're back on Sunday for sermons at 9 as well. I don't have any guests right now. We'll see if that changes. And you've been monitoring the National Football League preseason premiere of one Shedeur Sanders as the Cleveland starting quarterback. Is he lighting it up?
He's doing okay. They're definitely cutting to the crowd as often as possible to see any Shedeur stuff. He just made a nice completion there for almost a first down. It was a 9-yard slant, but it's not going to be enough. That was 3rd and 12.
But didn't you say first set of downs, it was 3 and out?
3 and out. Yeah. He made one completion that was short of the sticks, and that was that.
Yeah, that was it.
He had a nice little scramble a couple plays ago, but so he's not looking too bad, and I'm sure people on ESPN are going to be absolutely over the moon with, did you see that one scramble that he went for 12 yards and slid down? Boy, Joe Flacco, watch out.
We, maybe Sunday.
They're going for it on 4th.
Are they really? Well, it's preseason football. Sunday, we might get into the big purchase ESPN made, right? Of the NFL Network stuff. And there have been a number of folks who've commented on why they're concerned by that particular marriage. So maybe we'll try to dig a little deeper into that story on Sunday. What just happened? Did they make the fourth down?
Shedeur was scrambling for his life, almost took like a 15-yard sack, ended up throwing it away.
Oh.
And that's that.
Change of downs, change of possession, huh?
Yeah, he was running for his life. Two Panthers chasing him.
Yeah, well, that's how it works. That's it. That's why success at the college football level is never really much of a guarantee, even in preseason football, that you're going to be great at the next level, which is not to say he can't be okay eventually. But, I mean, there's no one who really thinks that he's seriously in the running to be the starter at the start of the season, are we? Or are they saying in Cleveland he might be?
I'm sure there's someone out there.
There's got to be somebody.
Well, according to the texters, I need to center my life around whether Sanders is playing.
Yeah, and whatever plans you had intended to make for tonight, you need to rearrange them. Yes. And as soon as you finish the podcast for today's show, you either need to stay here to continue to watch the game or go home and watch the rest of it, because it's history. Shedeur Sanders.
As long as he's in the game, I have to drop everything else I'm doing. Because how dare you?
Yeah. What round was he picked in? Round 5, wasn't
he? Yeah.
5th round pick, yeah, which is one of the interesting storylines. So if you're headed to Target Center tonight, be careful. If you are attempting to smuggle in a POLAD protest sign, Godspeed to you. I don't like your chances, because I got to believe they're going to be especially vigilant tonight. But maybe not. Maybe they won't even care. Maybe at this point it won't even make a difference. I'm going to be very curious to see if there are any indicators of exactly that, and even what the crowd reaction of the folks who are there is going to be at all. In the first visit back home since the trade deadline massacre of your Minnesota Twins, your favorite baseball team, took place. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, enough said tonight. Guardsy and I on a number of subjects. We've got a toy department section. We got an A section having to do with the Moriarty story, security at the state capitol. A lot of good stuff covered. 9:30 on Fox 9 tonight. 7:30 on Fox 9 Plus. Enjoy the weekend. Be careful about the corn sweat, and we will talk to you Sunday morning at 9.
I'll be spicy. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, I'll be.
Sayonara, suckers!